Welcome back, Downfield readers. I am your host, Jeff D. Thanks for coming on board for no show tonight. We've got a fun one. We're going to keep going with this fantasy football draft analysis. A lot of people are having drafts. We've got drafts coming up this weekend, the weekend after, probably the weekend after that. So we're going to continue with this. And in particular, we are going to be talking about the continuation of our Beat a Hall of Famer 26. And if you can see the screen, you can see that is the Hall of Famer that we are trying to beat. That is Greg Kellogg. And I have a feeling that if he ever got inducted into this kind of a Hall of Fame where he would get a gold jacket and all that schnazzy stuff, he would still show up wearing a Hawaiian shirt because that's Greg. That's just who he is. So I went ahead and I kind of cropped that together, Greg. I hope you're not mad at me. I found your picture online and stuff and put that on there and thought that was kind of hilarious. So, but that's the guy that we're trying to beat this year. So, as last week on Tuesday, we have from the coach's desk, Sean Pettinati. Sean, how are we doing tonight?
Good. How are you, Jeff? Glad to be. Thanks for having me on again.
Hey, no sweat, buddy. So I don't know of a lot of things that have happened. I guess we'll kind of touch on a few NFL hot topics first and foremost. I'm not sure
we had a few updates today. I don't know if you heard, shockingly, Puka Nakua, he left practice. He was dealing with some minor soreness, but they say it's nothing serious. But for him, that's about right. Because like I told you last week, they peel him off the turf every other week during the game, and you're like, oh, God, he's out for the season, and he's back. But I heard that. I saw Dobbins had a little bit of a soft tissue, but he returned to practice today. One of your group there, it's actually news to me. Nate Wiggins carted off practice today, but it looks like he avoided no major. He's a cornerback, but and then there's another thing there. I saw they say George Kittle's doing well, expected. Looks like he's moving around. I saw a video of him. He's doing pretty well. I read that they're expected to give a lot of carries to Gentry this year, which is what I thought. I thought he would thrive in that offense. I think it's a good fit for him this year. I did see that. And who else I see? And Murray, the big one, Kyler Murray to start. I wanted to ask you about that. That's my biggest one is obviously I don't think that's a shock, but if you're the Vikings and you have this young kid, all right, if Murray's a starter all year, then next year his club option comes up, but you don't know what you have. So that's my only thing is at some point you're going to have to decide what you have with him.
Yeah.
As far as the quarterback, I mean, obviously, it's not a surprise. I don't think it's a surprise that Murray, I think everybody thought that he would, and then you started hearing things, and I heard he was ahead of him, and then obviously today they came out. So I just didn't know what your thoughts were on that. For fantasy, obviously, that's a boon for all your Vikings. Even the running backs, obviously, but I don't know what's going to happen with McCarthy because you'll never know then.
Isn't that odd? He's hurt his first year. He comes out and plays not great football his second year. Last year they had guys like Bosmer. I think that was his name. He was an undrafted quarterback from the Minnesota Gophers. And then they also had Carson Wentz there for a little bit until – I don't know, he got his arm torn off of him or something. Or was it his leg? I think it was his arm where he just couldn't even hold up his arm anymore.
Yeah, he made a few starts in there. I remember, yep.
But Jay not looking good. They bring in a veteran, as they should, as most NFL teams would in that kind of a position, not knowing what you have at your young quarterback position. And it looks like Kyler Murray is going to take the stage. It's not great for JJ, obviously. It's not great for the club either because they only did sign Kyler Murray to a one-year contract. So, they might have another potential situation like a Sam Darnold where they bring him in for 1 year.
Well, that's the mistake they made with him. They did the same thing. So what if Murray has a good year and he's probably not going to stay, unless they don't bring back McCarthy, then they can get him long-term. But that's a great point. That's a very similar situation that they got going on.
Yeah. And not only that, but has Kyler Murray, has he had a better group of weapons around him
I know.
in his first few years in Arizona? And I would have to say no. He didn't play. I mean, look at his 3 wide receivers. He's got JJ, he's got Addison, he's got Juan Jennings. He's got some pretty decent running backs.
Yeah, they're not bad. Yeah, absolutely. Decent running backs for sure.
So he's got some weapons. I think if Kyler ends up being the quarterback for the Vikings for the entirety of the year, I think you're looking at a low-end quarterback, maybe fantasy ranking somewhere between 9 and 12.
Yeah, he could because anytime you have the rushing ability, which he does.
Yep.
That just that means you don't have to have the 300-yard passing. The pocket quarterback has to have all that, but he can move with his legs. He can give you a rushing touchdown. So no doubt. I mean, he's definitely there's a path to him being a QB, a top 12 QB, because he has, like you said, you just pointed out, he has good weapons, 2 good receivers. Tight end's not horrible.
Yep. Maybe underutilized last year. I had TJ Hawkinson for a little bit. Didn't do a whole lot for me. I thought his ADP was way too high last year. Now it's probably closer to where it should be, somewhere around 200. Undraftable at this point.
Last year. Well, we got him. He was tight end. He was way down. Yeah, he was tight end 26 last year, and he played 15 games. So
yeah, I was going to say 24. So he's even outside of the. If everybody had a backup tight end, he's not even in there. So
yeah.
But another big one that we didn't mention is Laramie Tunstall.
Yep.
In Washington, done for the year there. That shakes up their offensive.
That's the guy that they were looking at was like a buy shell Tootin to grab him, as your RB1 or whatever. But like again, this stuff will play itself out. This is what they're reporting from camp. Jackson and him are splitting. Jackson's coming off that foot. He's back from that foot injury he had. So that's something to look at too. Because a lot of people were expecting him to get the lion's share as the RB1 there too. So that'll lower his ADP some, obviously.
And maybe a potential one, probably nothing that big this much in the season. Christian McCaffrey has some tightness.
Yep.
But then who doesn't have some tightness?
Yeah, well,
San Francisco team.
He fits that. He fits in the same category like we talked about last week. I was talking to you about the data is very damning on running backs coming off that threshold the next year, and it's actually happened to him before. It's just not good, and he's already, I haven't drafted him anywhere because I'm just afraid to take him because the data, and I could be completely wrong, but the data has proven that it's proven to be very accurate with running backs coming off the big workloads. Yeah, he's already showing tightness or whatever.
Yeah, and then Jordan James, his maybe potential backup, is a little banged up. And then you got Kalen Black, who they drafted in the 3rd round this last year in this April. He's questionable. So they've got it's a weird thing in San Francisco right now.
If you draft McCaffrey, you got to grab both of those guys just to be careful. Because obviously the running back in that system is fantasy gold. So you got to grab. Jordan Mason thrived in it a couple years ago and turned that into his, moving over to the Vikings. But you have to grab both and just, he's someone you want to handcuff, I think, especially this year coming off the big workload.
For sure. And what a perfect segue as we get into round number 11, because what we're going to talk to in this league especially is we go to round 20 in this one. So you're talking about, the top 240 players. And when we start getting into it, we'll talk about a couple of strategies and theories on what we typically like to do in these latter rounds. But we're also going to point out some stuff as far as, hey, these are some guys that have very high ceilings. Here's some value that maybe other people aren't seeing just because of the team that they're on or maybe the quarterback that they have, all that kind of fun stuff. So let's go ahead and we'll get into that. I'm going to pull this up. And we are going to pull up the draft screen.
I've got it, so just in case I can refer to it.
There we go.
You said round 11, I think we're at right about.
Yep, we finished up round 10 with Chris, the 2-time champ in the Beta Hall of Famer League for the last 2 years. We did that on Thursday. So we're going to get into, and we'll see how far we get along in here. We might not get all the way down to round 20. Yep. But a lot of people don't go to round 20. Some of my leagues only go to 17 and 18. That's so right. Some of these guys will probably be irrelevant. If you don't mind, I'm going to go ahead and start this off
Yep.
because
Yeah, go ahead.
I had the turn at 10-11, and
Mm-hmm.
I ended up going tight end. And we talked
Mm-hmm.
about this a little bit. That was kind of my strategy
Yep.
getting into the fantasy football season here, where, with your first 5 picks, you want to try to get into as many, wide receivers and running backs as you possibly can. And you're either picking if you're going with really one of the two biggest tight ends out there, Brock Bowers or Trey McBride. If you're getting one of those two, you got to snag them. Otherwise, if you're getting into one of the better quarterbacks in the league, that should go in the top 4 or 5. We're talking Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Drake May, maybe Joe Burrow. We put him in there as well. But after that, if you're selecting one of those positions high, you're typically selecting the other one, either quarterback or tight end, a little bit lower. You had brought up the fact that last time we've got at the 12 spot there, Mr. Greg Kellogg selected back-to-back quarterbacks, Pat Mahomes and Kyler Murray. That was after drafting Tucker Kraft a little bit higher in the 6th round. Kind of had that same thing in the 10th. So I went with Ferguson with my 10th pick, and then somebody that I like a whole lot, and not just because the last name is Likely, but I do like Isaiah Likely in that New York Giants offense. And I will put this out there. I think he is going to finish as a top 5 tight end. It's got all the making for him to finish as a top 5 tight end. So I really love this turn. Did a little research beforehand to see all the different tight ends that were going to be available. And sure enough, as we were coming down the home stretch on 10, George Kittle gone, Sadiq gone, Kincaid gone. But 2 of my 3 that I was going to take, Ferguson, Likely, and Andrews still right there. And then we've got Andrews taken at that pick number 2 in the 11th round. You went ahead with number 3 and you took Jonathan Brooks. And I think Jonathan Brooks has been a very polarizing player so far in the pre-fantasy football season. So I would just like to have your take on Jonathan Brooks over Aaron Jones, who went a little bit later, over Tyler Algier, who went a little bit later. What's your take on Jonathan Brooks?
Well, first part for me was just the way the draft was for me. As we talked about last week, I basically, I went wide receiver heavy, just the way it fell to me. I went for my first 5, and I went RB0, and then I took Jackson. So then I knew that I had to load up on quarterbacks from round six on. So at the round 11, I'm looking for upside. If I had to cut a round 11 player on my team, it's not going to kill me. Just look for some upside. I mean, Hubbard's obviously the one there. Brooks, when he's in the rare chance he's been able to stay on the field, hasn't looked bad. So basically, I just took a flyer on that. The other person I did consider was Algier, but I think at the time we drafted, I wasn't sure. But he's definitely going to come in there and he's going to get some work. It could be a goal line back. He was very successful as a goal line back to the Falcons. But if Zach Charbonnet was healthy, I would have took him. But if he was healthy, he wouldn't have been taken in that round anyway. So, so that's kind of, I just make a long story. I just went with the upside play, and I know I needed running backs on the back end. Again, I'm obviously just the way my team started. I'm going to be starting. I think I can start 6 wide receivers, and I'll just be starting 2 running backs just by the way my team shook out. But it was an upside play in the 11th round. It's not any great draft secret, but that's I'm going upside in that at that point in the draft.
Absolutely. Well, and I think you got a point there too. I think out of anybody, he probably has the most upside out of those running backs. You've got Aaron Jones, who probably, he's 32 years old.
Yeah, he's at that 30-year-old running back thing where they tend to fall off. So honestly, for me, he wasn't on my radar there.
Yeah, and there's only one really good 32-year-old running back. I think we know who that is.
Yeah, exactly. Those are anomalies.
They are, yeah. And so you've got Aaron Jones.
It's a unicorn.
Yeah, exactly.
And they happen. They come along. It's like an Adrian Peterson. He came off that ACL that first season, and he had a heck of a season. But those are not the norms.
Correct. And then after that, obviously Tyler Algier. We had Tank Bigsby, and then Zach Charbonnet in Seattle. But here's where it gets interesting: is in that 5th that fifth pick in the 11th round, we started to see defenses going. We got the Los Angeles Rams, and here's what I think is kind of funny. No disrespect to the guys who pick defenses here, but the LA Rams coming in with that fifth pick in the 11th round, and the Seattle Seahawks coming in with that seventh pick.
To me, that's crazy, but everyone has their own philosophy. I wouldn't. I mean, I picked up the Jaguars actually today in this league.
I saw that
off of waivers, and I had a couple other thoughts. But I mean, they have a good matchup against Cleveland. I mean, defenses. I'll either look to stream them week to week, or I'll grab one that I think I can use for 3 weeks. I just don't. I looked at settings, like I talked about last time.
Yeah,
it's nothing crazy in the settings. You do get points for fourth down stops, but I in no world see we're taking a defense in the 11th round of a 20-round draft, because you're basically saying when you take one that high, you're basically saying that they're going to outperform all the people after them.
Yeah. Well, and again, especially
everyone has their own, they have the philosophy, and that's, I respect that. It's just that me personally, I'm taking position players. You and I believe both of us, neither of us drafted a defense or a kicker.
That is correct.
I normally never draft a kicker unless I'm forced to. I have an FFPC. I'm doing a baby gorilla one, and I believe they force you to draft a starting lineup, so you have to have a defensive kicker, and that's actually a 20-round draft too. But if I'm not forced to, I won't take a kicker, because especially this early with injuries, if it's a few days before the season, okay, So that's just my thoughts on it. I don't know how you felt either.
No, I think that's perfect. So I was going to bring up a couple of things about that. Is number one, especially in this league where you've got 3 starting wide receivers, 3 starting flex players, I'm loading up on those guys because like you said, you get one guy who gets hurt, you're going to need that other person later. Defenses, I look at them as you're playing the matchups. It's great until they have a bye week. I am never going to hold 2 defenses. I am never going to hold 2 kickers. Over the last couple of years, I have used the same strategy in a lot of my leagues with no kicker, and you're still able to go out. Last year, I got Jason Myers. He ended up being –
and he was terrific. I think I had him in a bunch of leagues too. There's always a kicker out there that it's inevitable, and a defense that you'd expect, or a couple of defenses,
Yeah.
I mean, our league, we've got the Packers still out there. We've got the Titans still out there. They both have pretty good matchups in week 1. The Jaguars have a good matchup against the Browns. That's why I just took them.
And you've got some teams out here that went ahead and they picked 2 defenses, which is really strange to me. Maybe it was an auto draft mistake or what have you. But then sandwiched between the 2 defenses, we've got Brandon Aubrey that goes. Again, I'm going to say way too early for that. I get it. The guy gets a lot of points.
But I guess offense. If there's a kicker based on recent history that you could argue, especially last year or the year before or last 2 years, you could argue he could put up like a 20 spot. It's him. I mean, I get, no doubt. Like, he's definitely legit. But again, I still think that's early for a kicker in the 11th round. But again, that's if that's what they, and I do give people credit. If that was their conviction and that's the player they wanted in that spot and they grabbed them, then you have to commend them for getting who they want there, and and saying, well, and not be married to ADP.
Right. Yeah, fair enough. My take on that one, the last thing, and then we'll move on to the next round, is with the Rams and the Seahawks, everything that I've been seeing, I think the Houston Texans are going to have the best defense as far as fantasy football goes. And that's what a lot of pundits are also. I thought Houston was the defense one. So to see the Rams up there, they had a great year last year. Obviously, the Seahawks, they won the Super Bowl last year. But to take them that early, even ahead of Houston at that point, just a little bit early for my taste anyway. Coming around
I love your, not to interrupt, but I love that 11th round pick of Likely, because he could, if Dart stays on the field, he could and should smash his ADP.
Yeah, I mean, what is he going at right now? Likely, he's got to be ADP like 10
so 11 times. It's in the 120s there. Yeah, because 12 times 12 is 144. 11, he's in the 120s thereabouts.
That's crazy to me.
And your Shaheed in 12th round, I like that a lot too.
Yeah, coming around that turn on the 11-12, we got Hunter Henry, and then we saw the Houston Texans going. So I think that Greg got a great pick there, since people were going to be starting to take the defenses. And then I'll let you go ahead and I'll kind of, pick out a couple of things from this 12th round. What did you like that you saw outside of, I guess, my guy, Rashid Shaheed? How did you think it was?
I know you had sent a tweet out a couple, was it maybe a week or so ago, but the Stribling kid from I like him. That sticks out to me. Again, that's, all right, Evans is the one, but he's in his 30s. He's already had a little bit of, I forgot what it was earlier in the week, with something with a soft, I can't remember if it was soft tissue, but he popped up somewhere. I mean, that kid right there in the 12th round could easily surpass his ADP. I do like that. And Concepcion's the other one. I think he might end up being the top guy. That's a really good pick there. 12th round. That's a big time one there. Again, those are two really good upside plays in the double digit rounds. Diggs, he could be okay, but I like the ups. I like the dart throw. That's all. Not, I guess 12th round is not a dart throw, but the Concepcion and Stribling I like a lot, because those guys could certainly outperform their ADP. I think there's pass there to them to get a good snap share and some targets.
Yeah, Stribling in Kansas City is kind of funny too. So it looks like Mike Evans suited up today, and they're listing Debo, Mike Evans, and Demarcus Robinson as their starting three.
This is going to be
I like Stribling.
Yeah.
I think Stribling is going to work his way up there. I think he's going to be number 2 at least before the end of the season goes.
Yep.
Stephon Diggs, I can't remember if this was before or after.
I think this is before he signed.
That's what I was thinking too.
I'm almost certain.
So that was a hell of a shot with that one, because obviously Diggs is either going now in the 12th round, or he's going even a little bit earlier than that. The thing that we mentioned before with Tunsil being out now, Jane Daniels might have to get rid of the ball a little bit quicker. And so Diggs is going to be the number 2 guy. You're still going to have Terry running the deep routes for the deep threat, and you're going to have Diggs underneath. I think that's what you're going to see more. Diggs last year, coming off of the injury that he had from the previous season, maybe he's lost a step, maybe he hasn't, but I think him as an underneath receiver there as a number 2, oh man, that's going to help out Daniels a ton if he's got to get rid of the ball sooner than later.
Rachaad White there too is not a bad PPR back. He's definitely, his forte is a passing back. He that's not a bad play at all. He could at least be early in the season. He could be flex worthy at least.
Excuse me. Yeah, Rachaad White. I think he might even have the opportunity, in my opinion, to take that number 1 running back position.
Yep.
Away from
he's got a chance early in the season.
Yep.
I'll speak about the other back later. I really love Brad Browns. He's down in the 17th round. I love that pick. I didn't even realize it was me that did it, but I love. I'll go ahead and I love Katron Allen. I think he's good. He's a great late round. But I think we were going to talk about that later. So,
we'll get to him.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about, after the first couple of defenses started to go here, I thought, gosh, should I take a defense? Should I not take a defense? But for me, anyway, those 6 teams, that was my tier 1. It was those 6 teams, and then after that, it's like, all right, I'm just going to wait altogether. If one of those 6 had fallen maybe another round or 2, I think I might have reached for one of those, but. Outside of that, I went with Shaheed. He's the number 2 guy in Seattle. They keep talking about how he is going to get a lot more play than he did last year.
I like that a lot.
Shaheed burned the hell out of me last year, so I was kind of surprised that I drafted him again. But when he was in New Orleans, he was killing it. And then all of a sudden he gets traded, and he's a special teams guy, and he's not doing anything. He was a major flex player in my teams last year. I couldn't get enough of him, and then all of a sudden it was Tank City after that. He went to Seattle and did nothing. On my turnaround here, number 12, number 13, and here's the strategy that we're looking at. You didn't go with a lot of wide receivers at this point in time, as we're looking at, around.
Yeah, I had to go running back because I went so heavy early.
Yep, but I think that was a great play, because I don't think that you are going to get a solid group of wide receivers in this round. And there is some statistic out there. It's after round 10, the wide receivers that you grab, they have like a 60% chance of being a bust. They never put up the type of numbers that you're looking at. You're better off going for a running back that has a higher ceiling. Somebody like a Rashad White or a Jonathan Brooks, somebody like that. That's where you're better off getting these guys at. And that's what I did with my pick 13 with Tyrone Tracy. I don't have a lot of faith in Cam Scatabo. The injury kind of scares me a little bit. The mental attitude kind of scares me a little bit. And if he goes down, you've got Tracy in the backfield. That was my play on that one. I just think that he's going to get some looks, at least at some point in time during this season. Cam is not
no
coming
doubt.
back 100%.
I mean, and he's shown very competent when he's got the lion's share. So, like, there was a pretty bad leg injury that Scadaboo had. So obviously there's going to be some ramp up time. So Tracy, you could be sitting on a solid RB2 somewhere in the season. And again, I'll keep saying this. It was a 13th round pick. It's not costing you hardly anything. He's not free, but he's almost free. If you cut your 13th round pick, it's not going to hurt your team.
Exactly.
If you have to cut your third round pick, that's when you're in trouble, but it's not going to hurt you. So there's no risk in that pick, and it's all reward,
Absolutely. I'm going to take one other guy that I liked in this round, and then I'll pass it over to you. Round 13, I liked the Jalen Naylor pick.
You took the words right out of my mouth, too.
Okay. Well, Jalen Naylor, if you look at it, he's going to be the wide receiver 1.
Yeah, they paid him. He can run. That's a great pick.
Wide receiver 1 going in the 13th round, I don't care how bad that offense is going to be.
That's a heck of a pick.
The worse, the better, because you're getting Jalen Naylor now, and they're going to do nothing but throw. And who's the best receiver on that team? We talked about it before. It's Brock Bowers. It's not Jalen Naylor.
Yeah, and they gave him some money. They spent some money. They committed to him. I believe he got a 3-year deal with some money. So they're not. They obviously, that tells you the money. They can say what they want, but the money's what you look at. Like, they committed to him. He's going to play.
Yeah,
that's a heck of a pick. 13th round, he could smash that ADP.
He very well could. So I thought that was one of my favorite picks.
Great pick.
One of my most questionable ones, because I kept seeing Trevor Lawrence fall, and he kept on falling, and he kept on falling, and everything that even in my own rankings, I had Trevor Lawrence probably 4 rounds earlier, somewhere around the Jackson Dart Bo Nix type of scenario. And he kept on falling. I'm not sure if it's because, hey, there's questions at the wide receiver. They're like, what are your thoughts on that? Did Trevor Lawrence go where he should have went in the 13th round?
I can't see. Let me pull this up. Did this person, did he already have a quarterback or no? Was that his first quarterback? I have to look here. I think that's his only quarterback. Yeah, it's his only. I'll look at it. I'll just say this. If you can get him, let me put just a perspective on this. So it's 13th round, right, Jeff? So let me all right. So in the 13th round pick, Peter's being slow on me. Pull this up.
And mind you, while you're pulling that up, Trevor Lawrence finished as
last year, Jeff.
Yeah.
He was QB4.
That's why I question it.
He's right. He's got a really good offensive coach there. He had 359 yards rushing and 9 on the ground. That's huge. So I'm going to go ahead and say, I think that's a great pick. You got 13th round, and you got a guy. He has the potential to be certainly in the top 10 with that coach. You got to expect Lawrence to be better than he was last year. Washington, he's getting raved all over the place. Jacob Myers was really good when he got there, and then Strange, who you actually have, which is a sleeper tight end. He was very good for him last year. So, I think it's a great pick.
Yeah, quarterback 17. Quarterback 17 taken in this draft.
Yeah, and he was QB4 last year, so slam dunk if you ask me. Again, there's no risk there. If he had to cut Trevor Lawrence as the 13th pick, that's why I look at it like, if he took him in the 3rd round, that's different. You got him in the 13th round. There's no damage to his roster if it doesn't work out. So I think it's a terrific pick.
Yeah. Well, I've got Brocal. He's the one that drafted him. We'll see how that works out for him. I've got him in week 1.
Yeah, I like the pick. because the rushing last year, the rushing really bayoued him up the board to have almost 400 yards rushing and 9 rushing touchdowns. Now, is he going to get that again? Maybe not, but still, he's a threat on the ground.
Anyone else stick out to you on that 13th? Otherwise, I'll let you lead with the 14th.
I like Greg's pick there with Singleton because obviously Spears is hurt all the time, and Pollard is a little bit older. Who I was actually wanted to get Singleton, and I did not end up getting him. So I end up with Jonah Coleman, but I like that Singleton because he's a good young back, and he could end up as an RB1 in the Titans if something were to happen with Pollard. Because Spears has shown flashes, but he's also been hurt a lot. So I think that's a great pick, a really good upside pick there by Greg in the 13th round.
Absolutely,
end of the 13th round. Trying to think if I missed anything else, and we talked about Naylor already. So, anything else for you in that round?
No, nothing else for me in that one. I think we kind of hit all the high points.
In 14, if we go to 14, just quickly for me, based on what I'm hearing, that Chris Rodriguez could be a pretty good pick there. It looks like there's some path to him getting some carries there. I like Trey Harris. I've been grabbing him a lot with all the vacated targets there, I should say. And the Chargers, they spent some draft capital on him last year. He did a little bit at the end of the year. I think you'll see more out of him. And again, in the 14th round, I thought it was a good upside play. And maybe when I have to use him, if he's on the roster and I have to use him in the middle of the season, he could end up being a pretty good pick for me there.
Yeah, there are quite a few players that I actually liked in this 14th round as well. I'll start off with Denzel Boston in Cleveland because I don't think Jerry Jeudy is going to be. He might be a casualty there. They might try to trade him and just go with
him and Concepcion. They grabbed them both this year. That's very good.
And the talk was that they took Boston in the second round. They took KC Concepcion at the end of the first round. And the jabber was, they reached on KC. No, I think Boston is just that good. And if you look at what their current roster was for wide receivers, Denzel Boston, I think he's a guy that could take over that number 2 spot as well. He's a big body wide receiver, 6'4", about 214. And you might think that, he's going to be an end zone guy, but he's fast. He's quick. Yep. He's got great hands, so he could be sideline catching, almost like a Chris Carter-esque type of person, but bigger body, bigger build. So I really like that Denzel Boston pick. And right away after that, I love the Omar Cooper pick as well. I think he could be really great in that Jets offense. Despite who their quarterback might be, I like Wilson Garrett's going to still get the majority of the passes, the targets. But I like the Omar Cooper upside with the Jets. So those were my 2 of my favorite ones.
I like one more. I think that Emma Johnson that the Chiefs got, if something were to happen to Kenneth Walker, I think you'll see him take over as their starting back. He's a pretty good pick. In the 14th round, that's basically 3. So I like that pick a lot too. Again, I like the idea of the upside plays in some of these picks. It's in double-digit rounds, especially this late. To me, you're not even really looking at ADP. You're just going for upside.
And then the next 2 picks after that, you've got Isaiah Pacheco and you've got Brian Robinson. When you're looking at my next pick, when I picked at the end of this round, I was eyeballing Isaiah Pacheco because, hey, I took Jahmyr Gibbs with my number 1.
Mm-hmm. I'm a guy. Yeah, definitely.
I got to have the insurance, but I'm not going to reach for it.
No.
If I would have picked him in the first pick of the 13th, that would have been a hell of a reach. There's no way. I went with Tyrone Tracy. I was hoping to get Pacheco on the way back, but that didn't happen. But it proves that point of, hey, you know what? You've got the Detroit backup, maybe Pacheco, maybe it could be they got a younger kid out there, number 2 at the number 3 spot, and Pacheco sounds like he got a little dinged up. So
I heard that was something that came out today, doesn't it, as well, that we talked about at the start of the show. I don't know if we touched on that. Something came out about him today. Yeah, dinged up a little bit.
Yep, we missed on that one. But so you've got Pacheco there. I don't think he was going to take. Obviously, he's not going to take the kind of role that David Montgomery had there.
Right.
But they've got Sion Vaki is the guy that I was thinking of there. I think he ends up. I hate to say splitting time at that RB2 spot. But even at that point, you should still probably hedge your investment a little bit. And that's what we're talking about here in the later rounds. It will literally cost you nothing. If you get Isaiah Pacheco, if you handcuffed him to Jahmyr Gibbs, if you're fortunate enough to do that, or even the next pick, Brian Robinson Jr., you're able to handcuff him to Bijan. That's awesome. Bijan's probably going to take on a very similar role to what Tyler Algier did last year as well. If somebody goes down, somebody gets hurt, like you're saying, it's a round 14 pick.
Yeah.
These guys, you can,
these
they may
are all
be there,
lottery
they may not be
picks.
there. Exactly.
Yeah.
So in the later rounds, are you a handcuff guy? Do you usually go for that?
It depends. Like I would try to your point, I would try to, if you know for certain who the handcuff is, sometimes, but when the main guy goes down, it turns into a committee. For instance, like last year, you knew Algier was the guy for, Bijan, you wanted Montgomery for Gibbs, but sometimes it's not that clear. So it depends on the situation. Like if I do happen to get CMC, which I have not yet this year, I'm going to try to do my best to grab both of those backs we talked about, Black and James, because it's an injury concern for me, and I want the running back in that offense. And the Raiders offense, if I have Genti, I'm almost always getting Mike Washington because I want the back in that Kubiak offense. So sometimes yes, sometimes no.
Fair enough. Got to let it fall to you, right? Let the draft fall to you.
Yeah, I may reach around or so for those cuffs if I really want them, but again, it depends on the situation.
Yep. Coming around the stretch, anything else that you wanted to hit on for round 14?
14. No, I think we touched on him. We talked about Johnson. Nope. I think you and I like Strange. You grab Strange there. I mean, I started him as a couple times last year. I think I forgot what tight end I had, but I ended up plugging him in a few times because Lawrence liked him. Tight end's so hard. I mean, you pray for 10 points from your tight end. If you don't have a Bowers or a McBride or something like that, you're just hoping to get 10 points, which is what in a PPR is 5 for 50, which Strange could give you. To be a wasteland.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? If you've got QB4 on your team and Trevor Lawrence is supposed to be going high, somebody's got to be catching those passes.
That's right.
So coming down into 15, maybe a little bit of a panic pick. I did pick Drake May earlier on. I took Baker Mayfield just because I felt like he slid too. I like the Baker. I just like the idea of the gritty Baker who is in a contract year and they can't come to a decision on how,
So you're going to get him. He's playing for another contract, so you're going to get the best out of him.
Yep, you're going to get the best out of him. Either that or he's going to get hurt. Yeah. But either way, so he's but hey,
he's really resurrected his career, though.
What's that
for him? He's really resurrected his career.
Absolutely, happy for him for that.
Yes, good for him.
You picked up a great guy, Keaton Mitchell, there, former.
Yeah.
Raven
I liked him with the Ravens. He just couldn't stay healthy.
Well, and that I don't think that they utilized him enough. He was hurt.
Yeah.
He had that gruesome knee injury where he hyperextended his knee, and then it took him about a year to come back. And then they just didn't play him a whole lot. And I will say this: the upside with Keaton is that he was fast as hell. He found holes really quick. He got there quick. Is he your stereotypical third down running back? And I think that's what they were kind of looking at. And he's really not. He's a little bit too small to block. He's not a great blocking running back. He's not an exceptional pass catcher. But just listening to Mike McDaniels earlier today, did you see that answering the fantasy football question?
I think he could be. I'm not going to sit here and say I don't think he's an RB1 with injury. I think best case scenario, he could be an RB2 / a flex play. What do you think?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think he could too.
I don't think he's going to be hired at an RB2 though, if all things break right.
Correct. Yep. I think you're absolutely correct there. More backup running backs in this round that we've got. Braylon Allen's another good one. James Conner is the one where I'm looking at going, who needs a running back? there's going to be another team out there that needs a running back. I think he's the guy that's on the chopping block. Obviously, he's the oldest one out of the 4 that they have in Arizona now, with Love, Algier, him, and Trey Benson. I think he might be the odd man out. Maybe he finds a new home. But one of my favorite picks in there, Zachariah Branch. I like him. He's a 3rd rounder this year.
Good things about him too. Yep.
Having a great camp. And, maybe if Tua is that starting quarterback, maybe he sees that number 17 and he gets a little bit PTSD and thinks that it's Jalen Waddle again. And he ends up giving Zachariah Branch a chance or two. But I thought that one was a very savvy pick by Brocal as well. I'm going to quit mentioning him though, because he's gonna end up beating me.
I don't hate. I like the Keyshawn Boutte and the Tank Dell. I think those are guys that have a good chance, especially Dell. If he stays healthy, he could easily outproduce that 15th round ADP. Obviously, he had a terrible leg injury, but he's working his way back, and by the midseason, that could be a smash pick. With New England, the hardest thing with New England is, I think it was like May likes to spread it around. Some weeks you'd see Boutte, get the ball more. Then you'd see Hunter Henry get it some weeks. There was a Demario Douglas, like he'd spread it around a lot. So that's the hard thing with that. But that's not a bad pick at all, and especially where you're getting them.
Yeah. In that New England offense as well, obviously they got A.J. Brown in the offseason. Yeah. They got Romeo Doubs in the offseason. Yep. So Boutte goes down a little bit. I was high on Demario Douglas last year.
And then they have that
Kyle Williams. Yeah,
he's another good player. He had some flashes last year, so they have some play. That's why it's just hard, because you just don't know. It's hard. It's just end up guessing who's going to be the guy every week. So probably the best thing to do there is just take Drake May and be done with it. Then you got everything you need.
Yep. So boy, who else we got here? That's about it. That's all I would care to talk about in that 15th round. I'll let you take 15 turn into 16.
Oh, I'd go back to you. I love the Dylan Sampson. I think he could end up being the RB1 there, or getting more, shaking more out of Junkin's role, but that's a really good pick. He's also a good pass catcher. That's the guy that could be an RB2/flex play for you by middle of the season. You just don't know with injury and all that. I like that pick a lot. And then Franklin, again, the Denver receivers. Franklin flashed last year. That offense can be maddening, but that's not a bad pick. And then Lane on the Ravens, another one I think is a really good dart throw there. Again, this late, these are lottery tickets, and that's a good lottery ticket. Like, again, if you had to cut your 16th round pick, so what? But what if he hits? Yeah, I mean, this is a great play. I think that's a good pick. What do you think about? I'm going to turn this over to you. What do you think about Okonkwo, the tight end there? And that, I mean, he's showing some flashes. I'm going to toss that way. And Tyler Shuck, the quarterback. What do you think about those two guys?
Yeah. So I tell you what, I am selling on Tyler Shuck. Sure. I don't see what the panache is with him. I watched him last year. I just didn't get a feel for him. I thought he was actually replaceable this year. I'm surprised that they didn't go for something with him. I think he showed about as good as he's going to play last year. The offense is shaky at best, and I don't think that he's going to be able to stand the test of the whole season. So I'm not a fan of him. He's one of my guys that I absolutely will not draft, no matter, if he falls to the 20th round or not. So I'm just not a fan of him. I'm staying away.
Well, if you look at his numbers last year, if you put him up, and I did not come up with this, I actually listened to Fantasy Guru a lot. They pointed this out, so I have to give them credit. But you put Shuck's numbers next to Rattler's, and they were about the same.
Next to who's?
Rattler last year, Spencer Rattler, the guy he went. They were very similar. So
yeah, and I'm not a
Tyler Shucks. Everyone's just big on. They're saying how much better, but he had 67% completion percentage, 67.6. Rattler had 67.7. Rattler was 8-5 TD interception ratio. and Shuck was 10-6. So quarterback rating 91 for him, and Rattler was 86.5. So like everyone, they kind of like thought that or the perception I think was out there that he did so much better than Rattler, but he really didn't.
Yeah,
when you look at the stats.
His
But
play
again,
wasn't that impressive to me in the 11 games that he was in. So I'm just going to stay away from him. 10 touchdowns,
but I mean,
6 interceptions.
he's certainly not a QB1. If you have to start him, you're in trouble when you're in a bye week, or you had to scour the waiver wire.
And I think you're in trouble too because he doesn't have the weapons that maybe some other rookie or unproven quarterbacks do. Yeah, he's got Chris Olave. Chris Olave is awesome. I'm really high on Jordan Tyson because he's going to be the number 2 there. But then are you really scared of Devon Vele? Are you really scared of anyone else that's a receiver on that team? I mean, when we look at the 14th round there, the first pick that Greg had was Juwan Johnson. That's a great pick because
awesome pick. Yep.
I think for Tyler, that's what he's going to end up doing. They went out and they got Travis Etienne. They still have Alvin Kamara there. I think they're going to try to go run heavy. I mean, you don't sign a guy like Travis Etienne and not want to go run heavy.
Exactly.
So I think that they're going to try to do that. Maybe that works in a division like the NFC South, where it's not that great. You've got Tampa, you've got Atlanta, you've got these teams that are always finishing maybe 1 or 2 games above 500 and squeaking into the playoffs like Carolina, right? So they're not playing in a real hard division. I just don't think it's there for him. Now, you take him and you put him on a team like we were just talking about the Minnesota Vikings, right? You got Jay Jetta, you got Juwan Jennings, you got Jordan Addison. All right, cool. Let's give that kid a chance then because he's got some weapons. But in New Orleans, I'm just not feeling it. I don't think it's a good setup for him.
And to Greg, just to get back to piggyback on your Johnson play, I mean, Greg ended up, he was tight end 8 last year, Johnson, and Greg got him in the 14th round. So, and I like the Henry to go back. He paired him with Henry. That's not a bad little tight end duo. He waited on tight end, it looks like, but he came out okay with those 2 guys.
Well, that was the 3rd one that he took. He took Tucker Kraft.
Oh, yeah, Kraft. That's right.
Yeah.
He's got some good tight ends there.
But Tucker Kraft is another question mark coming off the injury. You just don't know. My take on Okonkwo, I think that's going to be interesting. We kind of talked about Washington losing Tunsil. They gained Diggs. I think he's a decent flyer in the 15th or the 16th round that we're in. That's about it. I don't really see him in a positive or a negative. I think he'd be okay. The signing of Stephon Diggs, I think, lowered his stock a little bit just because, like I mentioned before, Diggs is going to get a lot of those underneath routes. But maybe that pulls something off of Okonkwo. But I don't know. That offense is just kind of weird to me right now.
Yeah, it's hard to figure out. But I mean, it also is going to predicate it as Daniels play better than he did last year. So
absolutely. I like the pick of Jacoby Lane, following the Ravens pretty closely. He's making some sick catches, man. He is just, and for me, when they drafted him, I'm looking at Jacoby Lane going, really, this guy, he can make outstanding one-handed catches, like phenomenal, 10 out of 10, great. But is he a wide receiver? Can he make other catches? Can he run the routes? Can he find
the route tree and everything?
Yeah. So I think he'll put up a highlight reel like no other wide receiver. But he might end up being the number 2. Depends on how Bateman turns around. And then they also drafted Elijah Surratt, who I thought was equally as good as Jacoby Lane.
Yeah, they did a nice job getting some weapons in there for him. I like them a lot. And then it kind of offset a little bit of loss of Likely. So.
Yep, absolutely. So swinging around that corner there, you mentioned Dylan Sampson before, and again, it's I this late in the game in the teens, this is my strategy. I go for running backs that have the highest upside should there be a running back problem. And you're looking at the guys that they might be taking over for. Dylan Sampson, I think, just has a lot of upside because I like him better than Quinshon Judkins. So I wanted to get a little bit more depth there, and again, it's a flyer. So that was mine. And then going into the 17th round, I like Ryan Flournoy.
Yeah.
I think that's
I grabbed him a ton in best ball leagues because I'm not sold on Pickens with he's so volatile and him not getting a deal. We talked about last time he's on the franchise and he's a ticking time bomb.
Yeah, and you know what? He played well when CD got hurt last
Yep.
year, so he comes out
Oh
and he
yeah.
does a great job. And
A
again,
good offense too.
very good offense. He should get more than enough for number 3. Maybe he is a flex player. Maybe one of those guys gets hurt again.
Mm-hmm.
You just don't know. We come into the rest of that round, and there's not really a person that stands out a whole lot to me at this point. I like your pick. We mentioned Allen before in Washington. I think he has a chance to actually play. Vidal, we kind of mentioned the situation with the Chargers there with Amari Hampton and Keaton Mitchell. I think he's a viable option for a flex sometimes. Boy,
I like Gritty Grit. I thought maybe Greg, if I would have grabbed that Mike Washington a little sooner to cuff Genty, but Gritty Grit Guru was sitting on a gold mine. God forbid something was to happen to Genty. That guy, he could be a really good. That could be a really good player there, Mike Washington for Vegas there for in the 17th round. We talked about cuffing earlier. Like if I have Genty, I'm doing everything I can to make sure I get Mike Washington behind him because I think he's the direct cuff, and he's in. That's a good offense for running backs. You know, the Kubiaks. That's that champion offense.
Cyrus Allen there, I think that was a lot of hype.
He was in the news, wasn't he, Jeff? Making plays for the Chiefs.
Yep.
I mean, you get slim pickings as we get down here 17 through 20, 18 through 20. I took a flyer on Dontavian Wicks as to they're saying he's got a chance to be the number 2 in that offense. I mean, he flashed in the Packers, and then you'd end up starting him, and he'd give you nothing. He was so maddening. It's probably better off as a best ball player, but that was someone I took a shot on. Ridley in the 18th round, you never know. That could end up being a really good pick if he can get back to what we know there was a lot of talent there. That could be a really good pick in the 18th round, too.
Yeah. Greg had a couple of great picks. The end of the 17th, getting into the 18th.
Yep, sure did.
Malik Washington, he's slated to be the number 1 guy.
Yeah.
We kind of talked about that.
Those are all really good picks.
Malik,
they're going to have good ones. Yes, the latter half of the draft, Greg killed it.
He really did. He got basically the Miami's number 1 wide receiver. He got the Raiders' number 2 wide receiver in that offense.
Kirk's done. You've seen games where he'd have stretches where he would go crazy. And then his last pick, Jalen Wright from Miami, is another really good pick. He's one play away from probably being the top back there. He could go. He's a very explosive. He was really good in college. That's another really good pick.
Yeah. So kind of rounding out the picks here toward the end of the draft. A lot of these guys are probably not going to make it onto the teams. Calvin Ridley, he might not even be on the Titans to start the season. I do like the Adonai Mitchell pick for the Jets as well. We kind of mentioned Omar Cooper a little bit before. I think that's an interesting wide receiver group. They're probably going to have to pass quite a bit in that offense, just going up against, teams like the Bills and the Patriots that are going to be putting up a lot of points. I think Geno is going to be forced to throw the ball a little bit. Probably more so than
Stowers in the 19th round. That's a really, really athletic tight end for the Eagles, and he could end up being somebody who sees the field a lot in the second half of the season. Over Goddard. That's like he's really athletic. That could be a really good pick.
And I was going to say Greg Dulcich.
Yeah, you mentioned him. I think you mentioned him. I think you talked about him on our last show.
I like that pick only because I think that there's going to. I mean, Malik he's a scrambling quarterback, right? So you automatically kind of go to who do the scrambling quarterbacks end up throwing to on the run. If they've got a great tight end, I think Dulcich is the guy that he's going to benefit from a lot of these. Blitz packages that they're probably going to throw at Miami. Defenses are going to throw at him just to stop Achane because he is the best player on that offense. Any defense that doesn't target him, it would be foolish. So Dulcich automatically becomes a target. If they're not putting together just a ton of tight end packages for him, I think he could be a top 10 guy at tight end for receptions or targets at least. So I think that's a
Someone
great
always
link.
comes out in a tight end position too and posts tight end one numbers that you didn't think about.
Yep. I will say I'm just going to talk about mine a little bit. We got 18 going into 19. Darnell Mooney, currently the number 2 guy for the Giants. So you know, you got the issues, the injury issues with number 1 in New York with Malik Neighbors. Is he going to be 100%? I think we have actually learned that he is going to be playing week 1. So I don't think that is much of an issue anymore. But I do like the Darnell Mooney from maybe 2 years ago is kind of what I'm hoping to see there.
I mean, yeah, and again, these are depth pieces too, or they could be lottery tickets again.
Yeah.
We're
looking at 106 targets, 992 yards, and 5 touchdowns with his first year in Atlanta 2 years ago.
Yeah, he's capable.
And all he's got to do is beat out guys like Darius Slayton and Calvin Austin.
Exactly. Yeah, those guys aren't like guys that you say, well, they're never going to come off the field. I grabbed Tucker. I thought it was I was actually eyeing him because he's showing flashes. He's a bigger back, and that goes alongside Irving. And Irving with that smaller frame, he could easily get hurt again at the running back spot. And that Tucker is a big guy out of Syracuse, profiles as a good goal line back. He could potentially be an RB2 somewhere down the line if something happened to Irving again. Like he could end up getting like, your 15 carry guy and your goal line touch guy. So I figured I'd take a shot on him in the 19th round.
I like the David Njoku pick as well.
Yep.
Pairing him up with Aronde Gadsden.
Yep, and that's late in the draft. That's and they like to throw to the tight end. They'll use their tight ends in that offense. So, yep, definitely. Again, there's absolutely zero risk at pick in the 19th round with him. If he doesn't work out, you cut him. It's not going to sabotage your team.
Yep. And then we've got the fill-in players, right? We've got guys doing the typical kicker defense in the last round. Otherwise, we're taking flyers on backup quarterbacks like Justin Fields. I can't believe Daniel Jones fell down to the 20th. He was having a great year.
Yeah, he's the starter. So that's actually there's nothing wrong with that pick. I mean, if he plays like he did last year, he's going to he'll blow that ADP away. And that's a really good pickup. I like it's a mobile guy too. He can, when he's healthy, his legs. I like the mobile quarterback, and I think he paired him with Dart, so it's not bad. That's a good combo there.
Yeah, but that kind of does it. I mean, to kind of wrap up this whole league, this is the Beat a Hall of Famer 26 league. Good luck to everybody in this league. This will be the last show that we actually have that we're going to be talking about this one. Draft strategies as a whole. If you're getting into your draft this upcoming weekend or a couple of weekends from now, like I said, I like to get at least two running backs within the first 4, just because those seem to be the primary targets. A couple of years ago, it wasn't that way.
Early. A lot of drafts I'm seeing.
They're going way early. So I've got one. I got a question for you. I've got the number 6 pick. I've been lucky enough to pick from 1 and 3. And
6 is hard.
6 is tough because I'm looking at Christian McCaffrey. Do I reach a little bit on Jonathan Taylor? What if you had the number 6 and let's just say hypothetically the chips fall as we think that they will.
I can help you with that because in the Big Gorilla, I'm in an FFPC. I didn't have 6. I had 7, and I went with. I can tell you. I can give you some good reference here. So the 6th pick was Jonathan Taylor. I had the 8th pick. The 7th pick was McCaffrey in this league, and I had the 8th pick. I went with Sun God. So I would not have taken McCaffrey, and I probably would not have taken Taylor. I probably would have went Sun God at 6, 7, or 8. Genty went 9. I do like Genty more so than others. I don't know about at 9. At the end of the round, I'd like to grab him. But I mean, I would say if I had 6 and St. Brown was there, that would be my guy. I would take. Puka was 4 in this one. I don't know. Have you seen? I'm trying to think. I don't know if Puka falls that far. I
Puka
also
too.
just read today, though, there's worries that he still could be suspended. So, like,
Yes.
I talked about this last week on the show. Like, he does frequently look like he's out for the season, and then he comes back in, but he's a little bit of a loose cannon. And now you're hearing that he still could get suspended, which is a little bit worrisome. If you didn't have to worry about that, obviously he felt you at 6. But I'd say if I'm you and I'm thinking to draft, I'm probably going St. Brown at 6, and then just let it fall to me and see what I'm going to do in the second round. So I was able to, just to give you some reference, at the 6th pick in this draft here, they went Taylor and Barkley. Not a bad start.
Yeah, and that's tough too, right? Because we talk about workloads of different running backs. If I play it out how I have my rankings at right now, I've got Christian McCaffrey at number 6. I've got Amon-Ra at number 7. But on the turn, then I'm looking at Brock Bowers, which I think it's too early. I'm looking at George Pickens, which I think is too early for Pickens at that point. Rashee Rice is too early. I want to grab another running back, and then who falls in? Saquon Barkley. So do I really want 2 main workhorses like that? A lot of question marks just based off of what they had done last year, but I do want to capture 2 running backs right away. Just because I feel like what we've talked about in this year's draft is there's quite a bit of depth that you can get, and it's almost like, hey, in your first 5 rounds, unless you're getting a Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, maybe Drake May, Brock Bowers, or I'm blanking on the name, Trey McBride. You're probably going to want to fill up with either 3 running backs and 2 wide receivers, or maybe 2 running backs and 3 wide receivers. We talked a lot about tight ends toward the end of the draft, guys that we can get later on that could potentially be, big time guys.
Right.
Quarterbacks, I think you can wait till middle rounds, but your first 5 or 6, I think that you can actually you can bank on a quarterback and a tight end later on.
I got one thing I want to talk about with draft picks. I want to see what your thoughts are. So I actually wrote an article on this on my X thing, and I called it like beware of discrepancies in drafts. So I have 2 scenarios I want to run by you, and this is where I get, and this is like, you look at this is off the consensus rankings that you see. So last year in consensus preseason rankings, this is the 25 Rams. Puka Nacua was wide receiver before the season, was wide receiver 6. Devontae Adams was wide receiver 15 in rankings. This is all before the season in redraft leagues, sorry. Mm-hmm. Kyron Williams was RB10. It was top 10 running back ranked. But they had Stafford listed as QB 22 and 24. So my argument is this. If he had, and what he finished at, the only reason those people were able to meet those rankings is because he finished his QB3. Had he finished his QB 22 to 24, there's no way that those other guys are going to hit those rankings. You see what I'm saying? So
absolutely.
My point to people for a draft pick is pay attention to your rankings. If you're in on last year, if you were in on Puka, Adams, if you're following consensus rankings and you're in on the running back as a top 10 running back, then you have to be in on the quarterback or it's not going to happen.
You have to, unless Stafford had those back issues in the preseason last year.
Yes, I'm saying he finished his QB3, which is why those people finished in that ranking.
Yeah.
So I'm going to fast forward to this year.
Yep.
For this year, the 26th, this year's Lions. Okay, right now, ASB is going as wide receiver 4 or thereabouts. Laporta, tight end 8. We know Gibbs is either RB1 or RB2. But Goff is QB 16. Okay?
Yeah.
So here's my point. Now, there's a positive correlation between quarterback, tight end, quarterback, wide receiver. Not always quarterback, running back. However, Gibbs is different. He gets a lot of his points via the passing game. So if Porter's to be tight end 8, ASB is to pay off at top 5, and Gibbs is to be 1 or 2. Goff cannot finish QB 16, or something has to give. So my whole rant here is that for people is pay attention to the rankings, because those are discrepancies in those rankings. And when you look at your weekly rankings, you have to. I had an example last year. They had all the Lions players as finishing high, and they had Goff as QB 17. And for reference, Goff, I believe the last couple of years, he's finished inside the top 10. So that's why it's paying off. Last year he was QB 9, and then the year before that he was QB 6. So that's why those position players are paying off. So my tip to everybody is just make sure you pay attention to this. I call those discrepancies in rankings.
And that's why we're doing this show, because we talked about Trevor Lawrence beforehand, and now we've got Goff. They both went in the 13th round in this league. And look at where they finished last year. And look at who their targets are. Look who's going, which is just kind of proves my point of you don't have to fill your roster by position. Hey, guess what? I've got my 2 running backs, my 2 wide receivers. I've got my tight end. I suppose I'm going to take a quarterback now. Wrong. Take the points. You got to take the best players on the board. And this year, it's that exceptional steal. I think there's a lot of steals. And the guys that are going to win their fantasy football leagues this year, and gals that are going to win their fantasy football team leagues this year, they are drafting quarterbacks later and loading up on running backs and wide receivers. And they're probably even picking tight ends later as well.
Yep.
That seems to be the epidemic from this year is all those running backs. Now, all those running backs that you just talked about, how many are there that are going in the first round? They're not all going to be at the end of the year. They're not going to all be first and second round worthy. People are overdrafting on these guys. And a couple of these guys, I think Ashton Genty is one of them. I think people are way overdrafting him. I think Love is another one that's going way too early. I think you'd be better off bypassing on him. They're just not going to all finish that way. And when you're looking at Gibbs, Robinson, McCaffrey, Taylor, Achane, maybe Achane falls out of there as well, because he's typically going RB5. After that, you got JT, Cook, Walker, Barkley, Henry, Brown, Hampton. All of those guys are going in the first 2 rounds. They're not going to all finish as top 24 players.
Nope. I mean, and again, you have to also, you just have to look. Your rankings have to match up. Like you can't like the receivers and the tight end and then say, well, I don't like the quarterback. I have him as quarterback 18 or something. It's not going to work. So like last year, they had Stafford as QB 24, and what did he finish as QB 3? But they had all his players, ranked up. You're not going to be able to support 2 top 15 wide receivers on a team if the quarterback is quarterback in the 20s. It's not happening.
Yep.
And that's just my biggest frustration and I respect people that, the rankings, but there's so many discrepancies in those rankings when you look at them. So my thing is just make sure that you check and that your mass, if that makes sense. The math's got to match.
Yep. Awesome. Well, hey, Sean, I think we have concluded this one. We're just a bit over that 1 hour marker again. So I'll let you get back to your family. And we've got a couple other leagues that we're in.
Yeah, we got 2 coming up, actually.
Yeah,
we got our one that you created for us last year, and then we had another one that someone did. So it's pretty cool. Looking forward to both.
Yeah, Cognoscenti League, and then we got the B Smoke Up in Smoke League.
Yep, B Smoke Up in Smoke. Yep.
So we will be seeing each other frequently.
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
All right, buddy. Hey, thanks
for sharing. I'll see you soon. Okay.
Always appreciated. Love your input, and we'll be chatting with you soon.
Appreciate the opportunity. Take care.
All right. Thanks, man.
Okay. You too. Bye-bye.